I used to be that. Are we refreshed? Just making sure everybody's got the refresh. Refresh! It's refreshing. And the thing to remember about the small stuff, and the thing to ask yourself, because I used to be that Agent Marvel. I used to be the kind of constantly like worrying about the small stuff because I thought it would just make my life better and easier and happier later. But in reality, the small stuff never went away. Like there was always more small stuff. So the thing to really, and the thing that has driven me to tackle this right now is ask yourself if it's negatively impinging on your life, right? Ask yourself, if I was happier today, if I just chose to put this small stuff aside completely and acknowledge that it really doesn't matter, like what's the worst that could happen? And it doesn't mean you just throw off all your obligations. It just means that if it's really wearing down on you, but it's really not that important, let it go for a bit, Understand that you'll get to it. Don't let it stress you out. Like, that's the thing, right? I mean, you can do it either. I mean, just because I'm concentrating on like not letting this bother me doesn't mean I'm not going to call the guy back at 11:15, right? Like, and if he goes to me again or he's like, still there, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to try later. I'll probably try texting him then because I can bug him when he's like actually, ready to get it. I think so too, Georgian. I agree. I do agree. Like when I was younger, I was not in any space that I could even approach this. And honestly, as you guys know, I've been doing self-helpery for quite many years now. So it's taken me, oh man, a long time. So I'm finally getting to the point where I can acknowledge that, you know what, the roofer guy, not really that big. What's the worst thing that happens? We get little drippies like during stream if it starts raining season early. All right. I mean, if it happens, it happens. Yeah. Oh. But if it's resolved, let it go, Kerniko. It's good. Big deep breath. Look at all the beauty around you. I mean, okay. Look at all the rain and fog and birdies. Look at all the birdies. But yeah. And it is. I mean, the question really is, if it's stressing you out a lot and it's stressing you out continuously, that's not healthy for you. Like, it's definitely to your advantage then to kind of pick and choose. And some of us just get, and this was me, some of us just get addicted to it, right? It's that constant, oh my God, I need to deal with this, and it can be that thing in your brain. It can be that subtle, I like to be needed thing, right? And so if you're always occupied with, oh my God, I need to do this, then that can feed that. So you gotta be careful. Oh, Kiki says. Yeah, right. Well, yeah, right. You need to process. Okay, so that's where things break down, right? In the understanding of this, right? In the understanding. It's really more like processing big things. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's true. You have to ask yourself what's big, right? What's big for you and what's not big. But it's okay to question that too, right? Life is about questioning like our preconceived notions. I've done a lot of questioning. Oh dear. But yeah, but my personal journey right now, because I did get addicted to the stress, because I realized that I was just stressing myself out to feel driven because I believed I couldn't get anything done if I was stressed out. And this is where everything is personal, right? That's where everything is individualized. You have to figure out where your own personal problem trigger is. And my personal problem trigger was definitely that fear that I was lazy and that I would never get anything done if I wasn't stressed out about it. And getting honest with myself about that, and then going to the next step, which is, do I really need to stress out about this? Am I capable of getting things done? Yes, right? So all that is very individual, and that's why those platitudes don't work, right? Is that really you have to get at the root of why are you stressing out? What belief or what, is it real? Is it really, really bad? Yeah, then you've got to process it. You've got to work through it. You've got to work on it, right? But not everything is life-threatening. But our brains think it is, and that's brain science. It turns out our brains think that every stress is life-threatening. Just do art all day. I got you, Kerniko. Yeah, I think reflection is good. Because if you need to process, then reflection is definitely, a productive way. It isn't very annoying. Oh, when you're hung in limbo, that can be some of the most stressful things, Kerniko. That can be, I get that. All right, let's get some work done while we're chatting. But anyway, this is my personal journey right now, is to realize that that if I don't stress out, I actually might get more done. Unlike my deep-rooted belief system says. Because I grew up around my father, who was stressing out all the time about all the things that needed to be done. Oh, bummer crows. Yeah. Yeah. Deep breaths. Bad things happen. They absolutely do. But are you still here? Are you still okay? And then processing, obviously your brother has some processing to do too. That could have been worse. But we're all going to hit bad stuff during our life. Like, it's inevitable, right? All right, I'm going to get my Icy Violet out. I'm going to get my, a little bit of Kraken Purple out. I think I used Kraken ink. Yeah, right, Kerniko? But that's my brain, because you know what? That's what my dad was always saying. That's what my dad fed me when I was growing up, that I was stupid and that I was lazy. He was frustrated with me because I was very much like him, but very different in other ways, right? I chose to go after my artistic career, whereas he was a writer when he was younger, and he chose, to go to the practical end of things, which, given in those days, was a wise decision if you wanted to support a family, right? But I chose to go the way that he thought was stupid because of his own values, right? And that's fair. That's his way. He did his way. I did my way. And he's still frustrated about it. He's frustrated that I'm still doing things my way down the road, right? But we carry stuff like that, right? Yeah, that's a big thing too, Inara, right? And it's awesome that you managed to get to that point that you could get help, right? Absolutely. I'm very, very thankful that as far as I know, although I may be a little ADHD at times. Squirrel. That's me. Yeah, right. Yeah, and a lot of us get fed that one, Kerniko. A lot of us get fed that you're not creative or you're not artistic. You have no talent. You have no talent, just give it up, or you'll just be disappointed. And a lot of times the stupid thing is they're trying to protect us, right? That was the root of my dad's frustration. He was probably afraid that I would never be able to make a living. And that scared him, right? And maybe your parents were afraid of the same thing, right? So maybe they were afraid that you would chunk off everything. And I know my mom was always scared that I would go live on a street corner in California and be a fortune teller. Well, guess what? I still read tarot cards. I do live in California, but I live in a nice house. With a leak in it. Oh, man. To pull it full circle. Oh, dear. Yeah, exactly. With a leak in it. Yeah. But you know what? At some point, when we understand that, we can work on it, right, Kerniko? If you know that you can't accept compliments, the easiest thing, the simplest thing to do is just to put off your brain's about compliments and just say, thank you. You don't have to be effusive. You don't have to do anything else. You just have to concentrate on just saying thank you. A simple thank you, then move on. It's the most painless way. I also had a lot of problems with accepting compliments. So I had to work on that. A lot. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird, right, Agent Marvel, because our child brains pick up that stuff. And then they just assume it's right. And we never challenge it. It's just until we become aware of it. And until, like you did, something happens, you're terrified, and then they turn out to be okay, right? Colander house. Oh, man. The funny thing is our dog sitter. Oh, that's right. I did kind of an intermediate because I could see my highlights. All right, cool. The funny thing is our dog sitter actually has worked in housing, and so he came in and looked at the leak, and he was like, "Oh, that's not bad at all." So that probably helps me be a little bit more good. So I'm going to wet blend this, guys, I think. I've got a base coat down. I'm going to grab my Kraken ink and my Icy Violet, and then we're going to do a wet blend. We're going to grab a slightly bigger brush. I don't have any of my really big brushes over here, so I'm going to use my Winsor & Newton Series 7 size 1. It's a miniature, so it's wider. So that can be like a better blending brush. But yeah. So I went through a lot of... And it was worse because one of my best friends in college also said I was too lazy to succeed. Like that I would never... He thought I would never finish a model for Golden Demon because I was too lazy. And then when I actually not only finished a model, but won, I called him. I called him the day it happened. That night after GD. I'm like, "Hey, Greg." And he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "I won a Golden Demon." And he's like, he lost it. He utterly lost it. That was sweet. I'll tell you. That was a nice big blow to that whole fallacy of being lazy. But you know what? It still lives up there. Like, it's still a little voice in my head asking me, "Are you being lazy about this?" You know, it's always vigilant. So let's just put down some of the light color and grab some of our thing. We're just gonna blend a little bit. We're gonna spend some nice relaxing blending time. I may have thinned this a little bit too much, but we'll find out. You can do wet blending with very thin paint if you've got a nice base coat down, and sometimes it will help you to get those perfect blends because the paint is so very thin that you can get it there with no brush strokes a lot easier, right? So, but anyway, happy Halloween, everybody! Happy Halloween! I'm gonna be at CrossFit tonight. David's got to handle the trick-or-treaters. I got to get my last CrossFit in before I go to the dog show. Because I went through, there were so many, I got a lot of steps in Hawaii. So I actually felt like I did well with my activity level in Hawaii because we were always walking down to Honolulu from our hotel. And that was actually like 20-minute walk each way. So I actually got like over 10,000 steps a day on most of our days in Honolulu. And I only got one night of CrossFit in the gym. So I feel like I need to hit this CrossFit because then I'm going away. I'm going to miss another CrossFit class. I went a little too thin with my Icy Violet, so I'm going to pop another drop in there. And that can happen if you feel like your paint needs to be just a little thicker to work well for this. Because wet blending, a lot of people use really thick paint. But weirdly, really thick paint can show brush strokes a lot more than thin. So that's why sometimes I do wet blending with very thin, like this, very thin paint. Yo, dog father. But yeah, so the reason I'm reaching for happiness more often, even when things go wrong, is that I feel a certain, like, that it's true for me that if I'm happy, I'm more creative. So I am striving to essentially not sweat some of this little stuff. To not take it personally, to not dwell on it. Just do what I can about it, but then put it aside. I've gotten better over the years at not worrying about stuff that I can't affect. That's another one. So we're going to do a little bit of a highlight here. You can see me hitting these folds. This doesn't take much wet blending. Because these folds are so sharp, you more want to hit a highlight along this upper edge. Just so we can pick that up. So all up here, we don't really have to wet blend. It's these big areas that we need to wet blend. So how did the Kickstarter launch go yesterday? It was the Dungeon Dwellers RPG, right? So let's work some of this light into there. And sometimes I'm going to accidentally paint over stuff I've already done. That's fine. I get to rework it. But yeah, when you use slightly thinner paint, you can get smoother gradients. Seems to be going good. There is the Dungeon Dwellers Kickstarter. Wait, I'll go over and look at it. I'll click on your link. Oh yeah. Well, it's definitely hit its goal, so that's great. Yeah, good. And it's still got some time to go, so that's great, Quindy. Yeah, it's good. That's always nice when you crush the stretch goals and you can show people more of what you had in store. That's really good. I'm very happy about that. Good job, Reaper. Ah, I left my burbling on. I've turned my phone on this morning so that I could catch a call from Roof Guy if he called. So you see how with the thinner paint, it can be easier to blend. Like that was pretty effortless. You got to put down a base coat if you do this, but I do find that it's better. Oh, and it's my family, but I'm going to. Ah. Oh, Dad and Mom are driving to AZ. Because it's time for them to snowbird. Dad just sent us a picture of the Rocky Mountains. I would think they would retail it. Agent Marvel, Reaper does have, they've done books before, so. But I'm not sure. Not enough paint on my brush. When you have too little paint on your brush for wet blending, you'll know it. Because it starts just kind of skipping like that where it doesn't go where you need it to go. I'm going to shade down here. Now there will come a point where if you put too much paint on, you'll start to lose your highlight and shadow a little bit to the mid-tone. So you got to keep an eye on that. But you can see how the paint kind of flows. See how smooth that is? So that's why I like wet blending with thinner paint. I really feel like if you can master it, like work with it, get good at it, it can be a great tool to do these. Yeah, we've got a few weeks there, it looks like, Korniko, because it has 18 days left, right? So I need to check my book dashboard, guys, my writer dashboard. But last night I did some calcs on you remember I was doing this month, I was figuring out if I am actually profitable. And I am happy to relate that I am profitable. Yay! That's good. If you don't have a profitable series, you should really stop and write something else. So at some point. So I was very happy to see that the books are profitable. And actually quite decently profitable. Like I did all the math last night. Like there are calcs you can do that'll essentially say, how much do I have to pay to find a new customer, right? Or a new reader. And then, how much do I get back from that new reader on average and stuff like that. So I was doing those numbers last night. And it looks great. Like, hey, thanks for the sub, Raceland. The resub. 15 months. Thank you. We appreciate it. We really do. But yeah, so, and we've got another review. We're up to 23 reviews on East of the Sun, and we've got 5 on West of the Moon. I'm still looking for that 10, so if you guys have read it, or if you have read most of it, and feel up to leaving a review, I would appreciate it so very much. I feel always kind of pins and needlesy until we get that 10 reviews point. Once we get to the 10 review point, I'm like, that's okay. Now I can take a deep breath back. There we go. And thank you to everybody who has already left a review of my book. It really matters. It's a little easier because it's the second book in a series. So, but if people look at the series and they see that the second book doesn't have many reviews, I worry a little bit if they'll pick up the first book. So it takes time. It's one of those takes time things, right? So here I'm adding in a darker shadow, like a lot of my Kraken ink, and I'm just blending just a little tiny bit of it with the tip of my brush. So I can keep that dark. So when you're wet blending, if you want to keep your dark, stuff it in there, and then when you grab your light, just pull a little bit of it in and keep that dark spot right there. But yeah, so this is good. This means I should continue to write Bear King's books. And with every book that I put out in the series, I'll get a certain amount of read through and my profitability will increase. So this is great because what this tells us, and lots of new writers maybe don't do this kind of math, but I think it's very smart to do. It's very businessy. Business numbers. Is it working? Princess Unikitty is my spirit animal. But yeah, so I feel happy because that means this is doing well. But I'm still going to work on my my cozy progression fantasy because I still really like that world. But not yet. I'm going to get North of the Wind done first. There we go. So a little bit of shadow. Oh yeah, if you have not seen that I wrote a book, it is a young adult fantasy based heavily on Norwegian folktales, although it is set in a unique fantasy world. And the first 2 books are complete story. So it's a complete series as of now. Everything after this will be standalone, based in the same world, and featuring some of the characters from the first books. So that's where we go. And now I'm bringing the Icy Violet in. Now I'm layering. And the nice thing about having thinned paint, working with thinned paint on the wet blend, guys, is that it's already close to a good layering consistency. And I do need to, mix a highlight now, because we can see that I did mix a white into my Icy Violet. But I'm going to get these blends, figured in first, to where they're really good. Hey, Daffodweir. But yeah, you can go check out my books at the author website, or you can go to Amazon and search for East of the Sun Becker. So I'm using my old name as my pen name. There we go. Yeah, pretty. All right, so let's mix a highlight. And we can start getting a little bit more. I can still use the Kraken. Ah! Down she goes. Hee hee! It's one of those days. Oh no! So I still use the Kraken ink as a shadow. It's fully dark enough, but I do need a highlight. It's Kraken ink. It's what I used to begin with. It is a limited color. Don't use Nightshade Purple if you want to hit this color. I would actually use 4 drops of clear purple and 1 drop of Nightshade to get close to this, but this is actually pretty pure, very little black in this purple, if any. I think it may be just a little bit of black. She had a broom malfunction, yep. But yeah, but you could mix it. I would do 4 drops of clear purple, 1 drop of Nightshade, and I think you should get close. But it's a great shadow for Icy Violet, so is Black Indigo. Either one of them will work. Black Indigo will give you more of a blue effect, and I wanted purple on this one for sure, so I was going for that. But yeah, so I am happy and excited to really throw myself into North of the Wind tomorrow. I am already plotting when I can write at the dog show, not showing up to the dog show until I've done an hour of writing in the morning. Nano is such a great motivator. I do look forward to NaNoWriMo all year. And this starts my writing season. When it gets cold and icky out, we're going to start with this. We're going to go that versus that. So you can see the clear difference here. It's maybe not 2 steps up. It's maybe 1.5 steps, but I think I'm going to go with that anyway. It can be difficult to highlight without, kind of getting a chalky look. So I'm going to start there and just go with that. One more drop of water. And of course, I still have, I'm going to layer this, but I still do have my other colors if I need to wet blend. And you can do that. You can wet blend your initial, and then you can try to wet blend your highlights. It's a little dicey, though, because almost all of the colors that we have here are kind of a blend of that light and shadow, right? They're not straight. This isn't straight Icy Violet. This is more. But if I try to blend up from Icy Violet, I'm probably going to get brush strokes because this is a little bit, every part of this is just a little bit darker than Icy Violet itself. So I don't usually like to do like a wet blend and then do another wet blend. Gotcha, Inara. So instead, I like to wet blend and then I like to layer. So I can take my Icy Violet plus white and I can layer up the bottom of this to bring it way up. And even the edge here. So I really feel that that wet blending is the setup for refinement. It's a great way to block stuff in, which if you are in my paint along level on my Patreon, you can go and watch the video I just put up yesterday of Caledriel, our big bust from Big Child. And I am blocking in her arm and musculature using wet blending, which is, I feel that wet blending is just great for that, is when you're doing musculature on a big model, whether it's an ogre or a bust. I've got a little bit of watermark here, so I'm going to have to go over the top of that. Oh, I got my my werewolf from Hera Models, Quindy, and David got it for me for our anniversary. And he forgot, he didn't order the right one. He didn't order the one with wings. But it turns out I'm actually kind of relieved. Because this is the thing, what is it about miniatures companies taking pictures that just make the model look so flat and static, right? That model is so much better in person than it looked on its concept art. It wasn't the fault of, like, the painter was very good, but it's just the way they photoed it made it look really flat. It's a much better model than that. So then we blend that up. Yeah, roller coaster, right? Yeah, I took him out and I prepped most of him the other night. And I was going to say, like, guys, if you're a gamer and, but you really kind of lust after those beautiful, like, 72 millimeter resin models or 75 millimeter, remember that you can do sneaky things with your gamers that way. Like, I was looking at that werewolf. It would make a great, like, ogre werewolf. Or like something like that, right? Like a dire werewolf, like some crazy giant size, like wolfware or werewolf. Or even like a half giant character who got lycanthropy, right? Like it would be in scale. It would tower over other characters. You could put the fear of like dice into players that way. I would be tempted to paint that up and use it in a game. Especially because a lot of gaming models are creeping up toward, 35 millimeter, especially if they're taller, bigger characters these days. You can, but you could do that. You can use those colored characters as giants, right? Those 75 mils. And it actually opens up a lot of very interesting, if you thought, like if those Echoes of Camelot models that Big Child put out, the Arthurian ones, like you could make some pretty cool, like Lancelot makes a great Storm Giant Ranger. I was just thinking about that the other day because I was just like realizing that could be a thing. Because I was debating over whether to include any bigger models in the painting book, right? Because I'm trying to figure out what models I want to use for various things. Kind of have an idea at least. And I was like, well, big models, everybody else does big models for one thing. All those other famous painters books are full of busts and 75s. But I was like, in gaming, because I really want to do RPG, right? A game geared, or a book geared toward painting characters that are RPG miniatures, because that's where I paint a lot of that. A lot of our content is about that. I feel like that is something that hasn't been covered as well, specifically, right? So, but then I realized when I was looking at that werewolf, oh, some of these can actually make great characters for like a giant king or something, where you want it to be the big end boss, you want to spend more time on it, and it's a really cool model. That's true, but I just wanted to point out that it is possible, it is feasible to, if you really like those characters, but you're like, oh, I can't use it for gaming, it's perfectly feasible to use them in a game. There we go. So I'm just getting some light in at the top here. Oh dear. Yep. Yeah, because I think sometimes people they don't even look at that because they're like, oh, there's no gaming, no way I can use that for gaming. But in reality, if you're creative, you could end up with some really cool giants that way. So I'm just putting a little bit extra highlight on things, bringing up that highlight there. Thank you. I'm just trying to... It's not as nicely blended as I would like it to be on the front, but there's also a lot of little wrinklies here, so sometimes little wrinklies will just fight you on the blending. Just looking at it, like seeing where I need my more highlights. Yeah, these are placeholders, not toys. Yep. I don't know, my players are always pretty respectful of miniatures when I was gaming. Pretty much the DM put the fear of God into them because he spent a lot of time painting. And then I adopted that attitude. Though I never had time to paint a lot for D&D. I did have time to paint people's characters, so they did get a firm admonishment to not be dorks with the dice when they're chucking them across the table. And also, I will not paint again for you if you kill these minis. There we go. So I just wanted to up my highlights a little bit so that everything is consistent. Oh, that's just stupid, Polly. Like, why would anybody? Like, seriously? That guy... he would have been out of the game. That's why you open with a, I have spent hours painting these for you, and if you deface them in any way or are careless about them or just don't care, not only will I stop painting for the game, or you may just get an invitation to leave. And if you don't like that, I can show you the door now. But then I have a fairly low tolerance for people who are careless with other people's things, you know, in general. There we go. Highlight, highlight. Hey, Red Links. How's it going? And we're just bringing in those highlights where I can put them. I want to do an extra touch on these folds here and to bring it up. Yeah, it's just a disrespect for other people's stuff, right? Age of Marvel. That's the thing, is that it's like, this is actually not yours. This is actually mine, and you cannot do that sort of thing to it. Everybody's got nightmare stories, I guess. But it just makes me like, ugh. Gotta concentrate on... I just gotta shake my head at people. People are silly. There we go. It probably won't trash because I don't have that model. Like, I don't have it on hand. I don't have, but if you want me to talk about OSL on a figure like that, like the backdrop, that like using the cape as a backdrop that one did, I could do that. I could probably find a model that would let me do that. That's got the warm and cool OSL. Do you really want to hate me? Because that was the first OSL I did. I just sat down one day, and this was the thing at Reaper. Remember that I was painting production. Yeah, I was painting for production. I didn't have a lot of time to spend extra time on learning new things. But I'd certainly looked at enough OSL, and I had figured out NMM. And if you understand, this is why I tell you guys, if you understand NMM, if you put the time into understanding it, you will have a huge leg up on OSL. Because you'll already be used to thinking about light in a particular direction. And also doing like backdrop lighting like that is one of the easiest ways to do OSL. Yeah. Yeah, I was really pleased with how it came out. I started painting that one over at Jennifer's, as I recall. We had a painting day over at her place when she was living in Denton at that time, years ago. And I started on that, pretty much started and finished that cape on that session. But yeah, if you learn NMM, you're going to be able to extrapolate where the light is hitting and stuff, and so it gives you a leg up on OSL if you're worried about OSL. So once again, we're just bringing up the light here on the shoulder. And I think I have a little fold there. I think I need to darken that down just a little bit. Hi, Roger. But yeah, that was an exception because it actually was a model for Reaper, but I chose to take it home and work on it so I would have time to do a better job on it, because I really pushed for that Master Series Minis line. Like, I really wanted it. It was before its time, sadly. I think it would be better received if Reaper did that sort of thing now. At the time, it just wasn't. It was too early before a lot of gamer painters got more into the bigger scale stuff, got more comfortable with it. So I put that little notch in there, but now I don't like it that much, so just blend it in a little bit. But yeah, since I don't own that model, I don't have any pictures of it, because I never really took photos of the Reaper stuff, because Reaper was going to take its own photos at that point. I'm going to make this fall a little bit more, I think. But yeah, all that stuff is just using the simplest form of OSL. Although I did go cold on the back of the model. I think I did the moon and fire lighting too, because he's got a gray-blue back. There we go. So we're just bringing that in. Now I've got that nice fade. We can see the light. We're all good. Looks good. Awesome. Super. Now, the hat is more black with the purple highlight on it. So down here then, I probably need to add just a little bit of white to my Kraken ink. Either that or I added a little bit of the Icy Violet to it. Let's do that. I'm going to just mix that color so it's just a little bit more opaque and a little bit lighter than the black. I'm just going to do it very simple. But yeah, that model would not have been so cool if I hadn't decided to take it home and paint it off the clock. And that was probably the last time, the only time I did that. It's because I wanted that model to be good and I wanted to put more hours into it than my Reaper schedule would really permit. So now maybe we can take in some Icy Violet and bring up this edge. So we're just getting that little bit of highlight to show that there is highlight, like there. So just a little bit of that, that'll go down here. Very happy to have finished my Patreon stuff yesterday. It's all dog stuff today for the dog show. Stuff I've got to do. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't because it's like, it's really weak, Turgeon. Like, remember that light fades the further it goes? And the undead also are casting their own light. So because of that, you really, like if you put, it's like putting a candle on one side and a little Christmas tree bulb on the other. The candle really isn't going to allow the Christmas tree bulb color to get really close to it, and the Christmas tree bulb is going to wash out any candlelight as the candlelight gets close to it. So just imagine those undead being a pale blue Christmas tree bulb and the lantern being like, you know, more of a candle. The censer, the burning censer that he's got, the mace. You'd have like kind of, you should just have like kind of a meeting line between those things, a dark meeting line. I don't think I had, because there's just space there. I don't think I needed that for that model. But yeah, the undead themselves are glowing. You can see that they're casting a glow and energy when they when their hands are touching the stone. So you've got two opposing glows there. But yeah, that was a long time ago. That was when I was still a full-time staff painter. We developed Master Series, but it wasn't, it was just starting to make an impact, so I wasn't in the paint department full-time. There. But yeah, I've got a lot of cool plans for the Patreon this coming year. We shall see how much of it I manage to get done. I'm leaving myself some wiggle room. And there's one project that I'm really not even going to announce until I'm sure I can do it, because it's a big, ambitious thing. And I'm not sure how it's going to fit in with everything else. I do tend to overcommit, so I need to be honest with myself about how much I can really cram into the year. Number one priority is starting the mini painting book, expanding the YouTube, keeping up with the Patreon, and continuing to write. Those are my priorities. So leaving this mostly dark, just bringing up a little bit of highlight. That's right, all intrigued. I'm being a tease. Mostly I'm just protecting myself though, because if I talk about this project, I'll never get it done. Sometimes that's a thing, by the way. And Stephen King cautions against this, and it's not true for everyone, just like every rule isn't true for everybody. But sometimes if you talk about a project, it can satisfy your brain's urge to like express that creativity, and you will actually lose some of the oomph you need to actually execute the project. So kind of keep an eye on yourself if you've got that kind of thing going on, or if you notice that that's the case. If you notice that after you've just talked about a big project or excited about somebody, you just don't have as much excitement for it, that can be why. Sometimes it's better to just execute and then talk. And it isn't always true for me. Sometimes talking to people about a project can keep me excited about it, like talking about North of the Wind. But it is definitely the case that sometimes some projects, it does work that way with me. There we go. We've got some dark purple going on there. I'm just going to touch up the hat a little bit. Teach Kiki to paint minis. It's more like teach Kiki not to eat minis. That would be, yeah, no. I try to choose projects that are doable, Dabber. The impossible project is not really where I'm at these days. I don't mind the difficult project. So I'm just doing a little bit of just recoding a little bit more up here to make sure everything matches. I'm also putting that Kraken ink on the other side of the hat. Yeah, watch out for that, Kerniko. Yeah. But so if you run up against an idea, if you know that you've done that and you run up against an idea that it's really powerful and you really are excited about it, try not talking about it and see if it means that you actually do it. Because we all have many of us have more ideas than we could possibly ever do, right? In Agent Marvel, obviously, I can see that you have a lot of great ideas. So there is that, but there is also the sure, you'll always have another idea, but sometimes you get an idea that's just you're so into that it's so you. Just make sure to guard those a little bit. There we go. And I've got a little bit to do over here still. Yeah. That happens in our. I've had that too. You buy a model and it hasn't happened though since I've gotten a lot more specific with myself. Like, I really ask myself now before I buy a model. I'm like, can I imagine myself painting this? Am I excited about painting it? Is this really a model that I really cannot wait to paint? Like, and if the answer is no, I just don't buy it these days. I used to just grab everything because, you know, purchasing power equals endorphin rush. But now I just feel weighted down by a lot, having too much. So I've started getting really picky. I'm happier for it. It's my own little idiosyncrasy. All right, there we go. I'm going to grab a little bit of Kraken ink to go in this back part. Just kind of putting a little bit more purple back where it was more solid black. And when you're putting over a dark color like Kraken ink over solid, over like a pure black, it's really not going to change the value. It's just going to give it a slightly different sheen. Yeah, right, Inara, exactly. They're all painted in your head now. Yeah. All right, so the hat and the everything, and we're looking great. And now we just need to, we got everything. Oh, these little tie things. I was going to do maybe some purple on these. I started out with them brown, but I don't think I want them brown. I think I want them more purpley. Although there was a sale on in my mini factory for Lord of the Print stuff, so I did grab a couple of Lord of the Print models because they're so inexpensive, specifically for the painting book because they're gaming models. Yeah, we can get away with the boots because even though they're a different color, the cat is also that color, and we've kept it dark enough to hopefully read as a neutral. That's the goal. All right, now I'm going to touch up the broom handle here. Oh, and we forgot the sleeves. I almost forgot the sleeves. Oh, no. Let's do those sleeves. Those are actually more urgent than the broom handle. I need my leather brown and my gray. But yeah, I forget which. There was one. Oh, I did pick up from Lord of the Print during that sale. I did pick up their Demon Gorgon. Because, wow, that is a kick butt rendition of that Demon Prince. Some of their stuff's just so cool. Their sculptors are great. All right, I need to punch a hole in this gray with my pokey tool here. There. But yeah, so we'll do this. Now remember, I was mixing up that kind of desert stone color, and then I was putting white in it to get it up to a more of a neutral. So like that. It's gray plus leather brown. Then once we've got that desert stone color, we plop it over here and put some white in it. It is nice to be all done with my Patreon stuff for this last day of the month. It frees me up to do other things. Also, I'm trying to pack that, like, I'm doing an experiment because Kiki always stresses out when she sees us packing. I need a little more warmth than that, actually. Where's my leather brown? So sometimes when you mix up, when you're doing a mix like this, you can go too heavy toward the gray or the brown. This is definitely too heavy toward the gray, so I'm just going to pop a little bit more leather brown in there. When I look at how warm my previous color was. There we go, that's better. So now we can start with that, then we can put a little bit of that over in the next well and add more white to it. Until we get what we need. But yeah, I think my Patreon is like I'm still finding some things that I can talk about that I haven't done before, but I'm starting to really get to the point where I've tackled a lot of things. And eventually, we're going to be more like I'll be using specific models as examples of a certain thing, right? Where if there's a model with particular interesting trait or item or something, I'll be doing more of a how to paint this on this model kind of thing. Or when you run into a model with something like this. Just because painting, when you get down to it, technique-wise, there's only so many techniques. Everything else is just figuring out how to apply those. So the more application things, examples that I can do, the better. But yeah, I'm really excited about my Patreon for the coming year. My Patreon and my YouTube. So we got that coming up. I do love doing shiny leather boots, and these are good shiny leather boot subjects. So we got that coming up later, and you can tell that it's the same color up as our tie up here. So we're in a good situation with this. We've successfully matched the color, or matched it close enough that it looks exactly the same. In reality, it may not be the same, but as long as it looks like it is, we're all good. You hear little birds cheeping out there? There we go. Getting that. I'm going to blend that in. It's a little bit harsh. So sometimes I will put my highlight in, and then I'll grab my mid highlight, and I will like layer that into that highlight to blend it into the surrounds. You can do this in really any order. You could just do your mid and then blend your highlight in, or you could do this way. There. I think we will have time to finish the balloon handle after we do the sleeve here. This is coming along fast. And then if we finish this, I guess we can work on a different, I guess I should just do simple basing on it. Because once the holiday season is over, or once this holiday season is over, we'll want to move on to other things. So if I want to base it, I probably should base it tomorrow. Alrighty. There we go. Excellent. Okay, wood. Need our harvest brown, which I think I already have out here because I didn't put it away. Naughty me. So once again, I will not be streaming this Saturday, folks. Obviously, I'll be out of town, but after that, the Saturday streams resume, and we will work on finishing Owlbear. We have to go back to rotation in Aura, but I want to continue working on our spooky guys that we got some stuff on, some stuff started on. This guy, for example, and the Ed figure. So I'll figure out a rotation that and the ghosty, the Reaper Con Mouseling. Still good working on those. I'll probably just like toss a couple of the ones we were working on that are close to being done in, and then continue to work on those spooky guys. So I think I do want to do the base on this one though. I think I need to use, I may cut her base down. Cut her base down and do more of a cobblestones or something. I guess I could do just dead earth and grass. That would work. I got milliput. I got my milliput. So maybe we'll do it with milliput. Maybe we'll cut her off this base. Put her on this base. I think she'll just fit, and use some milliput to disguise it. No, absolutely not, Inara. Not only do I not own cat litter, I will not buy a bag of cat litter to put ill-fitting, but it's like out of scale cat litter on a base. God, I just can't stand that. I'll mention it in my book that people do that, but I will not endorse it. Okay. Let's get this harvest brown and orange brown together. And Bob can teach that in his basing class. But if he wants a mini from me, he's going to take it my way. I could just keep this one. Throwing some white into this harvest brown just to make it a little more opaque. And if I want to make it a little more brown, I'll throw a little bit of my my Kraken ink. See that there? I'm just going to tiny bit of that. There. So by putting the off-white in there, I've made it more opaque. And by putting the Kraken ink in there, I've made it a little less crumbled cork bits. I'm all about. If your NMM is looking like bone instead of metal, then you need to make sure that you're putting in your shadows in the correct place layer. Remember your shadows need to be near black, and your highlights need to be pure white, and they need to be close to each other or next to each other, depending on the level of shine that you are attempting to convey. If you're doing a burnished effect, then you can get away with that. But if you're doing a shiny effect, your highlight here, your edge highlight, has to be next to this dark gray. So it's a near black. It would be better if I made this darker. That's the biggest mistake that most people make when starting NMM. They don't understand that shadows come under highlights. Look at this. This is chrome. What do you see? You've got a bright highlight that's not exactly on top of it. It's actually at the point where the light is reflecting toward your eyes. And immediately under that, you have a very dark shadow. Then you have a reflection, an under reflection, right? Those are the components right there. And this one, this is made, this looks like lines. It's very sharp in its demarcations, but that's because this is chrome. So with a sword metal, you would do a little bit of blending between these normally. But if you're doing the highlight on the edge of the blade, then the dark shadow goes right underneath, just like this. But yeah, most people in NMM, they either aren't putting high enough highlight on, or they have totally don't understand where to put their shadow or haven't shaded appropriately. Then it tends to look more like stone or bone. I'm going to grab some off-white, mix some of this in here. Get kind of a leather brown color. Yeah, if you're blending too much, then you've essentially lost your darkest shadow and your highest highlight, and thus you're going to get something that doesn't look like metal, because you must have that contrast of light and dark in order to get the shiny effect. There's no other way to make it look shiny. You must have that. Pure white is necessary for shiny. I'm just putting some of this lighter kind of leather brown color in to bring out some of this graininess. Yeah, sometimes it's too, NMM can be difficult too. If you're developing your brush control still, you've got to get pretty fine with it. So sometimes it's just to keep working on it until you finally nail it. The more you work on it, the better you will get. But yeah, pretty thin paint when we're getting to those shadows and highlights. But yeah, it's a work in progress with NMM. It's it took me a long time to get it into my head how to do it. I had to make a lot of mistakes. Because it's a conceptual technique, it's much harder to teach because your brain must grok it. You have to understand it to execute it at a certain level. And then your mechanical techniques also have to be enough in place. Remember, you don't need to blend perfectly to get that metal effect. You can, if your highlights and shadows are in the right place, it'll just look like it's a patterned or burnished surface if you don't have smooth blends. It's entirely possible to do very good NMM that way. David does it regularly because he's not into blending. Just getting a little bit more of the lighter color on top. Yeah, and that's the battle right there, Zachariah. I mean, you can totally work from there if you feel like making it more blendy, or just lean into the textures and still get a good result. If you've got your light and shadow pegged, it will look shiny. It just might also look textured, and then you'll have to ask yourself if that's what you want, and then you work from there. There we go. Still dark, but a little bit light. That's good, Agent Marvel. Yeah, it's practice, and then you hit it one time, and you're like, oh, and then a little bit of it clicks in your brain, and then a little bit more of it clicks in your brain, and finally then you start applying it to more difficult surfaces, and finally get to the point where even if it's hard, you can usually extrapolate how it's going to go. Alrighty, I think we're good. Let me get a little bit more of a light up here. And I want to glaze this because I've got a lot of kind of marbly look on it. This could be zebra wood almost, but I want to glaze it. So I want to glaze it with mid light. I want to put a bit of a barrier between that shadow color and the highlight. So I'm going to glaze. I'm going to use a heavier glaze. I'm going to grab my glaze, and I'm going to actually, I'll probably just paint it on, but I'm going to get a bigger brush. So yeah, tomorrow let's do basing on this. Let's use the Milliput. The super fine Milliput that I got to set up a base. So I just want to blend that in a little bit with my glaze so that it looks more integrated. That's a little better. I'll pop the top up a little bit and we'll be good. Yeah, she's turned out very nicely. And we managed to finish the model at least on Halloween. So yay. With non-conventional witchy colors, which we were desiring of. And just a little bit more highlight on the top. If I really wanted this to come up, I could glaze up there as well. Yeah, we could have done some freehand on the back, but we ran out of time. There we go. That's more of a light color at the top there. There we go. There. Excellent. I think we're good. A little bit more here. There. Just want to get a little bit of that wood highlight in there. So it's consistent. There, better. All right. I think we hit all the spots. Boop. And there we are. Yeah, you too, Turgeon. And we are perfectly aligned with our end time. Cape looks nice. Everything else is good. Yeah, so tomorrow we'll cut off the base. We'll do some milliput. And maybe we'll work on a second model if we do all that and it doesn't take up the whole time. But yeah, everybody have a lovely, lovely day. And I will see you all tomorrow. Okie dokie. Yep, everybody. Now we get to go out and get things done. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do a real simple base on this one, I think. More like textured putty with some grasses and stuff, I think. Oh, hi, Kiki. Is it time? Is it time? All right. Have fun one, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Bye.